Everyone, trading has closed on August 17th, 2023. As always, we'll start with our disclaimer. We'll go over our calls, we'll make some predictions. It's my trading plan for Friday, which is the 18th of August, 2023. Please remember I can be dead wrong. Any call you make should be made at your own risk. We had lower targets down in the 4200s, under 4200 in yesterday's video, but we had all the elements necessary for a bounce, which we got at the open. Don't forget we also have a higher target as well, which we'll discuss in a minute. Look for that pattern with the early low, that's this. Tomorrow should have the early high. It's a review of what we said. But even though tomorrow's pattern has the early high, it might be a rally day. During the day, MEJT said ultimately a higher price would print. It hasn't printed yet. So ultimately we should see 4413.60 and almost always more than that. There's no time limit on this, but usually you don't wait long. In the afternoon, there was an ultimate sell signal and a sell signal, and those played out. There's an optional higher target, 4407.50. It's a 95% chance it prints tomorrow, far away as it seems. 95 isn't 100, and if it doesn't print, we'll forget it. Whatever failings the Marks indicators had, lately, they certainly call the top here. When you hit combo and sequential on the daily chart in alignment with the sell signal on the monthly. We've now dropped to one of his levels. This is an old TDST line, and there is support under that line, even though it's old. We're also trading under the lower Bollinger Band, which means we're a bit stretched. But that's support. Support doesn't have to hold. This green line is an old FOMC announcement price. There's support around there too. Just because there's support doesn't mean support has to hold, but at least you're at support. This red line, this trend line, is a major trend line, and we dropped right to it. And that's support too. So either you gap under the line or the line wins, which means if you don't gap under today's low, if you don't gap under this line, a drop under it shouldn't stick. If we do drop under the line, I don't see anything stopping us from going to my next major support level, which is under 4,200. We haven't dropped under it yet, and there is a requirement to return to this blue trend line at some time. It just doesn't say if you go lower first. Let's see if we can count this drop. Well, there isn't just one way to count things. But we do have an ABC with C equal to A. When you look inside B, we have an ABC with C equal to A. When you look inside C, you have an ABC with C equal to A. If we do bounce here off that trend line support, at least there's a count which justifies it. But again, just because you have support, support has to hold, and that we're not going to know until tomorrow. Well, tomorrow's pattern has the early high. We could gap down. The pattern also features a late low, which lately, contrary to the usual pattern, has been higher than the early high. It's normally a negative pattern, but lately it's been positive. The recent drop through a trend line did not meet Mark's sustainability criteria for his TD lines, and at some point, his work says we should return to the trend line. It just doesn't say you won't drop more first. There's an optional higher MEJT target. It's a 95% chance of printing tomorrow. If it prints, fine. If not, we'll forget it. But there's a higher ultimate target, which should print at some time, and usually will not need wait long, but there's no time limit. Just remember, I get about 150 of these ultimate targets a year. System's 21 years old, and one of these fails about every 2 or 3 years. Doesn't mean it prints anytime. Doesn't mean it has to print tomorrow. But one failure out of every 300 or 450 targets tells you at some time it will be seen. The volatility index is over its upper Bollinger Band. NASDAQ McClellan oscillator is under its lower Bollinger Band, and the equity-only put-to-call ratio is over 1. These are levels seen at or near lows. But until you reverse, I don't have a signal. But there are levels from which reversals typically take place. We've dropped the support from a trend line, a prior FOMC announcement price, and an old TDST line. Either we gap under the line or the line wins, which means if you don't gap down tomorrow, a drop under that line shouldn't stick. Now Monday, August 21st, is Carolan's F27 from the October 1987 crash low, and it's his F31 from the October 1929 crash low. Now, not every hit in his series produces a result, but we're now within the 3-day leeway allowed by his system. So if we get a crash low within 3 days of August 21st, if we get a crash low here, I'm not predicting that one way or the other, it could be a major low. I'm not predicting a crash because crashes are supposed to come only in third waves of multiple degree, and that's not my count here. But if we do break through support, if we do break through support and we go under 4,200, we're in the time frame for a major low according to Carolan's work. But usually support like this holds. But again, usually and always aren't the same thing. It all depends on whether or not we gap under the trend line marked by today's low. So it's the pattern with the early high. It's usually negative. Lately, it's been positive. We're at support. We have a higher target that should print at some time. There's a great chance for a rebound, but if it fails big. And that's today's call.